When it comes to people that are actually slept on, who can forget the man that caused the most terror in all of Fate Zero? The conjurer of the otherworld, Mr. Cool himself, Bluebeard aka Gilles de Rais. From the story, we've seen that he can crush an entire human skull with the palm of his hand alone. We see him perform this multiple times, even gouging out their eyeballs while doing it. Despite all the people he had kidnapped, which amounts to several, there was only one hostage left when he was done with them. In Fate Extella, when Charlemagne was trying to rewrite his spiritual core, Gilles was still able to resist it. Keep in mind that this worked on servants like Karna, Lancelot, and Medusa. You have his territory creation, the story telling us that even Saber wouldn't make it if he had territorial advantage. He has access to his own crystal ball that allows him to view into the present whenever he wants to. He has rejuvenation spells and spells that can dull the nerves in your body. Using this, Ryunosuke was able to play with the organs of the people they were holding captive. Despite the fact of him not having the clairvoyance skill, he was still able to detect Irisville was looking at him through her crystal ball. Wild. Using his spells, he was able to hypnotize several children into following him into the forest. Not only that, but he was also able to hypnotize a truck driver into bringing them there. He gave his master Ryunosuke a bracelet that allowed him to use hypnosis spells as well. This too was able to overtake several people. Even after he's taken the life of one of his targets, he can use his demons to take control of their corpse and make it his puppet. He can use his magical energy by turning it into a mist of blood, allowing him to escape from Diarmuid and Saber. He can stand on top of his sea demons while he's in water, practically giving him the ability to fight off land. In Fate Extella, he was reinforcing Karna to a point where they had to take him out first before they could do anything. He has his move Festival of the Foul God, which allows him to lower the speed of anybody that's in the area except him. Again, in FGO, you had Gawain confirmed that he can control corpses as he pleases. The story tells us that his mana is so thick that you would sense his presence before you even see him. You had Kirei mention that 100 Face, known to be in the assassin class, had a hard time sneaking up on Jill without getting caught. Despite not having the skill, he has above average intuition. When Irisville tried to lure him into the forest to help Saber, he knew exactly where the bounded field ended, so she couldn't do anything. We know that the mist around Saber and Diarmuid was so toxic that the average human would lose their life from lung corrosion. In Fate Extella, just him going against Karna alone would be enough for them to destroy a metropolis. His sea monsters are also not restricted to just the waters. He can use them on land at will and have them attack with whirlwinds. Due to his phantasm Prelati's spellbook, he can bring these creatures from the other world using his book as the gateway. The book was actually a gift left to him by the servant Francis Pilates. By normal standards, Gilles himself doesn't even know much magecraft, but with the power of the book, it puts him on the same level as some of the best mages. Having this at his disposal, he can summon armies of demons at a flick of a wrist. The book itself is viewed as a supernatural mana generator and can cast spells that's far above standard magecraft with ease. We also know that the covering is made out of real human skin, and the book gives him a massive mana reserve just from having it. Even after Diarmuid hit the book directly with his phantasm, the book regenerated right after. And while it may have bought them some time, it says that his spirit has no authority to truly damage his phantasm. Waver mentioned that just being around the book caused all of his magic circuits to go haywire and put his body in pain. When Gilles summoned his colossal demon, it said that this type of ritual magecraft would normally take 10 people to pull it off, yet he can do this on his own. When he first met Ryunosuke, he summoned a mass of tentacles that was able to devour a child whole. This includes eating his face and his stomach off before doing this. He has the ability to plant monsters inside of his victims, tricking Saber by putting one of his demons inside of the boy that he used as a decoy. Saber herself had a lot of trouble with these monsters. There was too many for her to keep up with, and she was being overwhelmed until Diarmuid came and saved her. Despite the fact that she had A-rank magical resistance, this means nothing when it comes to him because his monsters come from a different world. Her resistance is useless against him. Again, it tells us that his monsters carry an entirely different threat than normal magecraft. It also says that just their claws are on par with swords. These demons can also regenerate infinitely, Saber admitting to the fact that a fight against him all comes down to the mono reserves. She mentioned that she could have one-shot them, but without access to her phantasm, she's stuck doing it manual. Without one of your best moves, you're finished. Demons can also be born from the corpse of the ones that have already been defeated. Each time they took one down, the number just doubled. He has the ability to throw his tentacle demons in burst form. When he's stationary, he can cause an even greater whirlwind than he can when he's using them as a vehicle. Then of course you have his colossal demon, and although he has to be the pilot to use it, this is a creature that scales above the city. The story telling us that even whales and giant squids look smaller by comparison. You had Irisville mention that it could devour the entire city in just a matter of hours. In his FGO version, Jill mentions without the access to a master, it does take some time for him to control. It has ridiculous amounts of regeneration. Even Saber and Iskander using their normal powers combined couldn't do a thing to it. Without actually using a phantasm head on, the best they could do was slow it down. It was fast enough to snatch an entire jet directly out of the sky. Again, this is the F-15 fighter jet that can go up to 1600 miles per hour. Gil used 4 of his phantasms to blow off a third of the demon's entire body, and it still regenerated. It was able to catch Saber and had her stuck until Iskander came out and saved her. It was able to catch Iskander and had him stuck until Saber came out and saved him, even when Jill lost access to his master and Ryunosuke got domed up by Kirisugu. Nothing changed. He just kept terrorizing the city. In FGO, when Siegfried tried to use his phantasm against it, Balmung, it regenerated from that. He can have the tentacles summoned from his body, reinforce them, and use them to attack directly. He has manipulations that allows him to burrow his monsters through the ground in multiple directions. In Fate Apocrypha, you had Jill defend Joan from Amakusa with just her flagpole. Mind you that this isn't a truly summoned Jill, he came from Shakespeare's phantasm. In FGO, he was the one that landed the finishing hit on Lancelot after he went on a complete rampage. He can create a barrier around himself that makes it easier to force out his enemies. He can create tentacle hammers that will slam down on any target that happens to be nearby. Alongside Joan, he was able to use his phantasm to take down a demon pillar in the Solomon chapter. He can create an energy field that burrows even larger tentacles than he had before. He's also the one that created Jalter with the help of the Grail in the 100 Years chapter. I mean, this dude is summoning Cthulhu monsters from another plane of existence. It took half the cast teaming up with each other just to go against him, and they still couldn't hold him. Then it took one of the best servants using one of the best phantasms to completely take him down. If this isn't A rank, somebody's lying.